What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Wednesday, May 12th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, we have a 10-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. So the most expensive pitcher on the slate, I like Gerrit Cole with a 10% pitching advantage over the Tampa Bay Rays. Gerrit Cole, he's only giving up a .554 OPS versus righties, and the Tampa Bay Rays have 6 righties here tonight. On top of that, the Rays have only hit 32 of his last 166 pitches. That's a 193 batting average and a super big sample size. So a huge sample size. And Gerrit Cole is $12,000 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,500 less on DraftKings. Projected at 41.2 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 1.61. His record is 4-1 on the season, pitching an average of 99 pitches per game and averaging 51 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 31, 64, and 61 fantasy points in his last 3 games. He's just in a phenomenal spot here tonight, so I think he's worth paying up for. You're going to have to save some salary on your batters, but if you stick around to the end, I've got a really nice value play for you at the outfield position. So I like Gerrit Cole here versus the Tampa Bay Rays. Okay, if you're looking to save a little bit of salary and at the pitcher position, and you want another pitcher that's got some pretty good upside, who's in a great spot here tonight, take a look at Danny Duffy, pitching against a low salary batting team, the Detroit Tigers. So Danny Duffy, he's only giving up a .570 OPS versus switch hitters, and he's facing 4 switch hitters tonight. So on top of that, the Tigers have only hit 42 of his last 165 pitches. That's a .255 batting average and a huge sample size. So Danny Duffy is $10,200 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,300 less on DraftKings. Projected at 29.8 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 1.26. His record is 4-2 on the season, and he's pitching an average of 98 pitches per game, scoring an average of 42 fantasy points per game. He scored 26, 49, and 45 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Danny Duffy here versus the Detroit Tigers. And the other stud, Brandon Woodruff, he's also in a good spot here tonight. The Cardinals are only batting a 197 batting average, only hit 12 of his last 61 pitches, and he's got a good OPS against all hands, averaging 41 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 54, 34, and 52 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He has an ERA of 1.73, record of 2-1 on the season, pitching an average of 90 pitches per game, projected at 38.4 fantasy points here tonight. And I like this pick because Vegas only thinks there's going to be 7.5 points runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So they think this is going to be a low-scoring game. So I like Brandon Woodruff here versus the St. Louis Cardinals.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and then we'll send you $100 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Now guys, just as a quick note, we just released a free DFS contest on Draft Dashboard for MLB and NBA for DraftKings and FanDuel. There's over $500 available in the prize pool, and this is a totally free contest you can enter as a Draft Dashboard member. So make sure to click the link in the description of this video, give Draft Dashboard a try, and you can start playing in our free DFS contest and compete to win some money. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like JT Realmuto with a 54% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Jon Lester. JT Realmuto, he's batting a .895 OPS versus lefties. And Jon Lester, he throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .786 OPS versus righties. Now I like this pick because JT Realmuto, he's batting 4 for 10, batting .400 with a 1.555 OPS versus Lester. 2 of those 4 hits were for a home run. He's $3,500 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,600 more on DraftKings. Projected at 11.2 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 9, 12, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like JT Realmuto here versus Jon Lester. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like DJ LeMahieu with a 43% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Collin McHugh. DJ LeMahieu, he's batting a .852 OPS versus righties. And Collin McHugh, he throws his worst ball by far to righty batters. 53% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.148 OPS versus righties. He's 3 for 6, batting .500 with a 1.000 OPS versus McHugh. He's $3,800 FanDuel salary and $1,800 more on DraftKings. Projected at 11.7 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 6, 12, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like DJ LeMahieu here versus Collin McHugh. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a 47% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Max Fried. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is batting a .987 OPS versus lefties. And Max Fried, he's pitching his worst ball versus righty batters. 36% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .939 OPS versus righties. Guerrero Jr. is 1 for 2, batting .500 with a 1.500 OPS versus Fried. He's $4,000 FanDuel salary and $1,200 more on DraftKings. Projected at 12.4 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 14 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 32, 7, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. here versus Max Fried. Another third baseman that I like is Rafael Devers with a 94% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, James Kaprielian. Rafael Devers is batting 22% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .928 OPS versus righties. And James Kaprielian, he's pitching his worst ball versus lefty batters, giving up a 1.715 OPS versus lefties. Rafael Devers is $3,900 FanDuel salary and $2,000 more on DraftKings. Projected at 10.7 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 13 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 19, 4, and 32 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Rafael Devers here versus James Kaprielian.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, one more third baseman for you. I like Jean Segura with a 56% batting advantage over John Lester. Jean Segura, he's batting a .857 OPS versus lefties. And John Lester, we know he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .786 OPS versus righties. But I like this pick because Jean Segura, he's batting a 500, he's 4 for 8, and he has a 1.681 OPS versus Lester. And I like this pick because he's only $3,100 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,100 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 3, and 25 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Jean Segura here versus John Lester. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I like Tim Anderson with a 66% batting advantage over J.A. Happ. Tim Anderson, he's batting 29% better versus lefty pitchers. He's batting a 1.052 OPS versus lefties. And J.A. Happ, he throws his worst ball versus righty batters, 38% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .692 OPS versus righties. Now, Tim Anderson is 9 for 6, batting a .562 batting average and a 1.624 OPS versus Happ. He's got 2 home runs out of those 9 hits, and he's $3,800 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,500 more on DraftKings. Projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 13, 6, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Tim Anderson here versus J.A. Happ. Now, we just got a lot of players that are in great spots here tonight. Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, both those guys in good spots here tonight. But I'm going to move on to the outfield position. Now, I told you I had a value play for you, and you're going to need them. I'm actually going to give you 2. So I like Alex Verdugo with an 87% batting advantage over that low-salary pitcher, James Kaprielian. Alex Verdugo, he's batting 14% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .862 OPS versus righties. And we know James Kaprielian, he throws his worst ball versus lefty batters, giving up a 1.715 OPS versus lefties. So Alex Verdugo, he's $3,100 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,000 more on DraftKings. Projected at 10.7 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 9, 0, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Alex Verdugo here versus James Kaprielian. Okay, now I saved the best value play for last. You're going to need to have a low salary player in your lineup if you want to stack those pitchers and batters. So I like Stephen Piscotty. Stephen Piscotty, he has a 47% batting advantage over Eduardo Rodriguez. Stephen Piscotty is batting a .615 OPS versus lefties, but Eduardo Rodriguez, he's pitching his worst ball versus righty batters. Actually, not his worst ball. He pitches his worst ball versus switch hitters, but he pitches 51% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .792 OPS versus righties. Stephen Piscotty, he's 5 for 8, batting a .625 batting average and a 2.125 OPS versus Rodriguez. 2 of those 5 hits are for home runs. And he's only $2,400 FanDuel salary, and he's 100 less on DraftKings. Projected at 8.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 6 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 10, 0, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Stephen Piscotty here versus Eduardo Rodriguez.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.